It's that time again. Time for the Steam Winter Sale. This is Justin's Picks. Just a heads up, Darren will be making a video, but he is going to be making his after the sale goes live. We're going to give that a try just to see how that does as far as numbers, and also just to see if he likes doing it that way a bit better. I am, as usual, going to give you my picks with a bit of prediction based on past sale prices. I will also be giving the current lowest that I see on most of the common sites. And, as always with me, it is going to be in a few different sections. The very last one will be a few free picks, so stick around for those. My first section this year are PlayStation games that have come to PC. They're a little bit expensive. I probably won't be getting any of them yet. And the sales will probably not be the biggest as they will be in future years. But I want to point these out for a few reasons. One, just to make sure you're aware that they are available on PC now. Maybe some of you didn't realize that. Well, now you will. Two, my big thing is the more money that Sony and its companies that have exclusives, the more money they make, the more likely we're going to get more of these games. I said this when God of War came to PC and came to Steam, and it seems to have come true. There are three that I'm going to talk about today. And in fact, I'm going to start with the first one, which is Uncharted Legacy of Thieves. $50 at base, currently $35 on Steam and Humble, and even a bit lower, $29 on Fanatical. Uncharted is sort of Tomb Raider, if I'm being honest, but I do really enjoy these games. I've played the first three on PlayStation 3, I believe. I loved them. Not everything about them. There's always a few levels and a few things that make me go, oh, Naughty Dog, why did you do it that way? But overall, I like the story. I like the gameplay. It's just one of those games where it works and I enjoy it. And so I would enjoy getting to play the next in the series that I haven't been able to play yet. The next game is Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. This really is recent. It is $60 at base, but even though it is so recent, it is already getting a $45 price tag on Steam and Humble as I'm recording this, and Fanatical, again a bit lower, $37.20. It looks great. I love Spider-Man as a character. I love the idea of being able to swing and fight and do all of the things that Spider-Man can, and it's highly reviewed. So my guess is it's probably worth it. I'm just kind of cheap, so I will probably wait a little bit longer. But keep in mind that this dropped just a couple months ago, and then last month, Miles Morales dropped as well. And that is also very tempting. What I would suggest, though, play Spider-Man first, because it is my understanding that the Miles Morales game will pick up the story where Spider-Man left off. So there'll probably be spoilers if you're worried about that. And you know me, I'm always worried about that. The next game, another recent drop. Sackboy, A Big Adventure. $60 at base. Current sale, Fanatical, $34. Pretty good. I love Little Big Planet. I've played the first two games. I'm not much of a platform gamer, but I do really enjoy these. It's much more casual platforming with just absolutely incredible aesthetics. It has that sort of level design to look as though it's made out of stationery and household items. You get to collect stickers that you can post everywhere. You can decorate your little hub. You can make your character do different facial expressions. Tons of customization when it comes to the character. I'm not a big fan of what appears to be a lot of DLC for customization of the character, but if this game is anything like the first two, it is going to be cute, it is going to be fun, it's going to be funny, and it's going to be just incredibly charming. I definitely will get this. I just don't know if I'm going to get it this sale. The next section is just a couple of board games that I've been playing lately that I think you might want to play as well. The first is Wingspan. This is $20 at base, but even as I record this, Steam and Good Old Games have it at $10. That is for the base game. It doesn't include the expansions, which I've not played yet, but I probably will. Let me warn you of this before I really do anything else. Wingspan is a lot to take in. The learning curve is pretty high on this one. I did the tutorial, and still it took me a couple more games, like actual games, before I really understood how the resource management worked and how some of the game mechanics worked. But once you get it, it is a very fun game, and it works very, very well. And I love the digital version because in the digital version, you get animations for the birds, you get their call, their song, whenever you click, whenever you play them. And if you play a new card, you get a little fact about them as well. It's a wonderful little game once you get the hang of it. Speaking of little games, my other game I would recommend here is Small World. Small World is a game I first played years ago in physical form, and it's just a lot of fun. And what I really love about Small World is once you get the hang of it, it's a much, much faster game. It can be a very short game, whereas some board games for me take a bit long. Now, Small World is $10 at base. I would recommend getting it with all of the DLC, which I believe is $16, but it has had a historic low of $5. Hopefully you will get that, or just wishlist it and wait for it to come out in a bundle, because when it's bundled, it's often bundled with the DLC. How Small World works, what makes this game so great, is it is sort of like Risk Super Light. You are trying to take over the small world, as much of it as you can, with your race. You've got your elves, dwarves, giants, trolls. They each have a particular ability. And then there's a randomized set of cards that give you an additional ability. And what makes the game work so well for me is, one, that it is a shorter game, but two, every time you play, it's going to be a little bit different because each group will have a different power than when you played the last time. And that makes for a lot of replayability. And it's a fun one, especially digitally, because you don't have to set anything up. So load it up and play half an hour. You could play probably, depending on how fast and how many people, but I'd say with 2 people, you could probably play 2 to 3 games in an hour, which I love. My next section, I think I'm going to label it as the indie wish list hopefuls. So these are ones that I have not played, but ones that have caught my attention. These are typically cheaper, even from base. Let's look at the first one, and you get an idea of what I'm talking about. The first one is Wonder Doctor, or Wunder Doctor. You may want to check the show notes for the spelling on this one, as well as the links to all of the other games I mentioned in this video. Wonder Doctor at base is $10, but it's hit low of $2.50. I've seen that a few times this year. I suspect that it will get there for the winter sale. It has a look that, if you're watching the video, you can see is very unique. I love this kind of art style. It's a bit crazy as well. It looks like you're trying to cure really unusual diseases. A bit of dark humor, a bit of puzzle. To me, it looks like a lot of fun. A very similar game is Strange Horticulture. At base, this is $15. Currently $10 at Fanatical and Good Old Games, and I would suspect that is what you'll see it on Steam as well. Strange Horticulture, very similar concept. People come to you needing help, but it's not just for diseases. You run a botany store, and in this town, there's sort of a hint that things are going on, and you might want to find out more. So you're managing this. I'm not sure if a florist shop would be quite right, because I don't think everything has flowers, but you're running this horticulture shop called Strange Horticulture, and you have to help cure people, help people. There's also puzzles along the way. I'm not sure how that works, but I'm very curious to try it out. Ravenous Devils. Now, this game is only $5 at base, and the lowest so far historically has been $3.50. So not a huge discount, but we're talking a $5 game, and we're talking a game where you are going to be making food and selling it to your customers that's made out of people. But don't worry, not everything gets wasted, as it says in the trailer. The clothes get repurposed. It is, from what I can tell, a management game where this is your product. It looks like it's going to have a lot of dark humor, as well as some of the management stuff that I find fun in games. We will see once I actually play, but the trailer looks fun. I'm intrigued. Speaking of death, A Matter of Murder. A Matter of Murder is also $5 at base. The Steam low is about $2, and I'll say this, if you don't mind getting it on itch, it's just $1 at the moment. A Matter of Murder is a procedurally generated murder mystery where you have to explore the house, gather the clues, and figure out who done it. And that sounds very much like my kind of game. I hope it lives up to the way it is in my head, but even if not, I think at such a low price, it's definitely something I want to give a try and see how it works. Speaking of all this death, though, all these bodies, what do you do with those? Well, you call in the cleaner, which brings us to Nobodies. Or No Bodies? I'm not really sure. At base, $7. Lowest it's hit was just over $3. Currently, I don't see a deal anywhere, but doesn't mean it won't happen in the Steam sale. Nobodies, I'm not sure I really like the art animation style as much, but the idea of being a cleaner and getting rid of the evidence, that seems like it could be a good game for me. I like this kind of dark humor, dark matter, and I'm very curious to see how they play it out. In the trailer, it definitely has some puzzle elements to it, though they do look a bit simple and maybe tropey, like ones we have covered a lot in the podcast. I'm willing to give it a try, though, and see. I think that there might be, even if that's the case, there might be enough here for me to keep it interesting. My next section is just a real quick section on elsewhere deals. So, on Fanatical, the current deal that I would have you check out, if you don't have them, is the Platinum Build Your Own bundle that they currently have going. That is, for me, the three that I would most recommend: Oblivion, Doom 2016, and Dishonored, the Definitive Edition. I believe it's something like $7 for 2 games, $10 for 3. Each one of these is worth well more than $10. I've played them for more than 10 hours, that's for sure. Oblivion, if you've played Skyrim, Oblivion is just the one before it. The graphics aren't as nice, but pretty much everything else is fairly similar. The only thing you're really going to notice is fixing your armor, fixing your weapons. You have to get kits for that. It's a little bit more than I like to do. I prefer the Skyrim way of it, but I prefer the Oblivion story quite a bit more, and I felt like I could tinker a bit more with the specs of armor and weapons in a way that was a lot of fun late game. When I thought I was bored, suddenly I wasn't, and that is something. Doom 2016 is just one of the best shooters I've ever played, and Dishonored, especially the Definitive Edition, that's going to be the DLC that I haven't even played yet. All of these, lots of time, very good games, very worth it. There are other games in that bundle. It's a build your own, but these are the top 3 that I would recommend. The other one I'm going to recommend is going to Good Old Games and getting Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, the first in the series. $7 at base, but right now it's $5. I believe this only came to Good Old Games a year ago, and so now we can get it on sale. Now you can play it. This is the only one out of the series that I have not finished. It's not as much my style of game. It is more complicated. It is more combat boss heavy than the other games. and it is a bit older, but I would recommend it. It is still fun, and it begins the series. All of the other games, good old games, and even right now on Steam, each one of them goes for about $1 each. Soul Reaver is one of my favorite games of all time, and the other, I believe, 3 in the series are all ones that I've really enjoyed. The caveat to that as well is that Crystal Dynamics put out a huge survey. I was able to fill that out, and it sounds like the response was good, and they might be making more games in the future based in this world. Whether it's remasters or further games, we don't know, but we also don't know how long it will take before any of those games become something we can even demo, let alone play fully. However, I think they're well worth playing, and I would say get them while they're on sale, which kind of leads into my next section. My next section is sequels to good games that I want to play. The first one is Rage 2, and of course I'm going to recommend the Deluxe Edition. At base it's $60. Currently in Humble it's $16, and Fanatical it's about $11. I really enjoyed Rage. I don't think it's for everybody, but it is post-apocalyptic wasteland. In it, I could do racing, combat, like gun combat, crafting, and gathering resources for crafting and for selling. It just had a lot of what I wanted, and it really felt special. It wasn't new. A lot of stuff they were doing was stuff that I'd done in other games, but somehow the way they put it all together felt really good. And it wasn't so long that it overstayed its welcome. Not how I feel about Borderlands. I always felt like Borderlands was just a bit too long for me, but Rage was kind of just right. So I am very curious to try the sequel. Psychonauts 2. At base $60. Humble, good old games, and the Microsoft Store even have it for about $20 at the moment. I think it's no surprise that this is on my list. I loved the first game. I love most of Double Fine games. Love Double Fine games. So, I want to play this. I've been waiting for this since I played the first one a couple years ago, and I'm really excited about it. The trailers look amazing. The reviews are good. It looks like it picks up where the first one left off, except now it's just going to be so much, fingers crossed, technically better than some of the things in the first game. Please no Meat Circus. Alright, so, just hoping. Slime Rancher 2. At base, $30. Currently $24 at Humble. This is a pretty recent one that has come available. I want to point this out because it is early access, but this is an early access I would not be scared of. Look at the numbers for the reviews. Overwhelmingly positive, both recent and overall 14,000 reviews. I really feel like this company knows what they are doing. I'm pretty sure I bought the first Slime Rancher when it was still early access. Their early access is very playable. What you're missing out on are just some of the tweaks, adjustments, and whole sections of the game that they will probably add later. It's not the kind of game, though, that has an ending and where you really feel cheated if you don't get to do that. It is relaxing, farm hunter simulator-ish, very cute, just a fun game. So if the sequel is like the first one, I'm just gonna love it. And the trailer makes it look that way. I was very happy to play Slime Rancher 1, and I was happy to jump back in later when I felt enough new material had been added. And that's part of why I want to recommend this one now. I think that Slime Rancher, it can be a game that is fun to play, and then play again later after more has been added. Shadows over Loathing. At base $23, at its lowest $20, but that's kind of to be expected. This is again another one that is very recently released. But oh yes, the Loathing team is back, and they are bringing us a dark monsters Cthulhu-ish kind of game. RPG, stick people, looks fun, the first game was just so good and so funny, and I enjoyed it immensely. So I will probably get on this one sooner rather than later. I don't know if I'm going to get it this time, but I definitely will be getting it at some point. I think what I might actually get, which I didn't know about until recently, was the West of Loathing DLC. That, at base, is $5, and currently Good Old Games is $2.49, but of course I think you need to have it on Good Old Games, but I think that that's a good indicator of what it might hit in the Steam sale. If you want to look it up, it is called the Reckonin at Gun Manor, which that I probably will be picking up this time around. I loved West of Loathing. I want a little bit more. The next section is basically just the next couple games that we're going to be playing for the podcast. Well, actually, we already played for the podcast, but the next couple that we are going to be uploading. So the first one is Gomo. I've talked about this one before in sales videos as part of the Daedalic bundle. At base, it's $5, but even right now at Good Old Games and Fanatical, it's 50 cents. And it will probably hit that again in the Steam sale. Gomo is a cute point-and-click short puzzle adventure. It is worth playing. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to hearing your reaction when we finally put out the episode for that one. And speaking of finally, you don't know this yet, but Gorogoa, which is the next game on the list, is one that we actually recorded a long time ago. I think even in the last sale video, I recommended you get Gorogoa. It's just been a weird coincidence where every time we were about to upload that one, a more timely game or movie came in and it got pushed back. But I am going to make sure that it gets out there soon before it's just not worth doing anymore. Gorogoa is only $15 at base. Good Old Games has it currently at $4.50. It is definitely worth that. It is an incredibly clever, yet in some ways simple puzzle game where you are working with 4 squares and you can move parts of pictures around, zoom in, zoom back, and connect them in different ways. You can see it here on the video. It is really interesting, really beautiful, really worth playing. Okay, and here we are at the end. So of course, I need to give you my free picks. So I found 3 games recently that these are not even just ones that I'm throwing on here just to have something. These are ones I really enjoyed. The first one, kind of tying into one of the earlier sections, this is actually a game I didn't realize existed. I had played Landlord of the Woods, but the same creator made a game called Whimsy. Looks very similar style puzzles. It actually came out before that. Don't know how I missed it, so I'm highly recommending that you give it a try. It's a short puzzle game, it is free, it is fun, and you'll want to play these 2 games now so that you're ready in February when the next game, Birth, is set to release. The next game is called Bubble People. This is a little weird. I actually had to watch a video to understand how the first level worked. It is a hidden object game where you basically need to find what in the level you can pop. It will be highlighted in red, and you put, say, the cursor over it, click on the mouse button, hold it down, and then pop. It has that satisfying bubble pop sound. It feels good. They've even added a whole section where you can just pop bubbles. It is a very different take for me on the hidden object game. I like it in the way that I like Hidden Folks. I really think there's something more to it. I haven't finished it yet, and I'm kind of curious as to where it's going to go. But so far, once I understood how the first level worked, I really enjoyed it, and I am, as I said, curious to see where it will go. The last game is a very short game called Snake Force. In Snake Force, you have to run around rescuing soldiers, and when you do, they will follow you in a snake formation. And what you need to do is you need to use your group to take out the enemies, but if you leave the friendly fire on, you can easily die, or your group can die, because you're all standing in a line shooting right through your compatriots. It's a bit maddening at times, especially when you're first getting the hang of it, but it's done very well. It moves really smoothly. It's an interesting concept. I think for me, the shortness and, of course, the freeness definitely helps me want to play this game, but I'm curious to see if they would do anything with this later. But even as it is a fun little game, and I definitely recommend you give it a try. And so with that, that's my list for winter 2022. Let us know in the comments if you find any good deals or any games that you're particularly looking forward to or you think would be good for us to be aware of. I hope you do find some good deals. Happy shopping.